Sup everyone, SudoKid here. Today we will be building this Unreal Engine C++ coin pickup system based on Gorka Games blueprint tutorial. A link to his video and my assets are in the description below. Please go give him a like and subscribe. For this tutorial, we'll want to make sure the third person template is selected and set to C++ not blueprint. Then we'll give it a name. I'll be using coin pickup tutorial, and then we'll hit create. Now we will want to create the C++ actor for the coin pickup. To do this, we will click on the content drawer, C++ classes, coin pickup tutorial. Then we will right click and select create new C++ class. We'll want to select the actor, click next, then give it a name. I'm going to use CPT coin pickup actor, and then I'm going to cycle quickly between public and private, and that will make sure that these folders are selected. You should only have to do this the first time you're making the a C++ class, and then we're going to hit create class, and that's going to take a couple seconds here and open up our IDE. We should now have two files in our IDE, one .h file, which is the header and contains all class properties and methods, and one .cpp file that contains all logic for the class. We will want to change this primary tick actor to be false because we don't actually want tick. And then because we don't want tick, we can delete the tick method from here. And since we're not going to be using the begin play method, we can also remove it here. Once those two are removed and we've set this to false, we can come into here and we can delete these two methods since they're not going to be in the CPP file, and it's going to cause errors. So we'll just delete those. There we go. And now that we've cleaned this up really quickly, we're going to go ahead and create a property in here. And we're going to do that under protected. And here we're going to use the U property, which will allow the blueprint to actually see and allow editing of it. Edit defaults only. And then we'll give it a category. And this will allow us to more easily find these specific properties inside of the blueprint settings. Coin pickup tutorial. And this will be the name of the name on above the property, or the drop down that it will be part of. Right here, we're going to do a T object pointer, and we're going to use a U static mesh component, and we'll call it mesh component. Now we want to make sure that we include this as a class here. And this is to prevent any changes from causing all things that use this class from having to update when we compile. So if we make any changes, we don't need to compile everything all over again. All right. So now we need to initialize the mesh component so that it will actually generate and attach to the actor. And that can be done by assigning it. So we're going to use create default subobject and give it a class. Because it uses a template, we'll use the greater than less than brackets, and U static mesh component. And then we just give it a human readable name. This will show up in the blueprint. I'm going to call it mesh component. Right, there we go. Now this creates it and assigns it, but it's kind of nebulous. It's not actually attached correctly at this point. So now we'll want to set root component, and we'll do mesh component. There we go. That's weird. All right. And then we need to add a couple more things. We want to set the collisions and the channel responses, and we want to set overlap to false for this. And you'll see why in our next step, in coming steps. So we'll do mesh component, set collision enabled, and we'll say e collision enabled, no collisions. Now this is an enum, and which is essentially just a set of numbers that have been given meaningful names. So 0, 1, 2, 3, yada, 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 of a specific collision thing to make it more human readable and easier to remember. We're going to do the same here, and it's going to use another enum, but we're going to set the collision response to channel, to all channels, sorry. Set collision response to all channels, and we want this to be ECR ignore. And then mesh component set generate overlap events false. So what these two lines here do is sets it so there is no collisions and that it is ignored on every channel. That way, we're not checking for anything. It should be a little bit faster. And then in the collider that we create later, that will affect the overlaps. Okay, so now let's take a look at what this looks like. I'm just going to make sure everything here is saved. And then we are going to restart it. Now that we've got the coin pickup actor C++ class, we need to create a blueprint for it. So from within the content drawer, we're going to right click on content and create a new folder. And we're going to call that coin pickup tutorial after our project. And then in here, we're going to create a new folder again, and we're going to call that coin. And this is just going to hold everything regarding the coin itself. All right, so in here, we're going to create a new blueprint class, and we're going to select all classes and go coin pickup tutorial, coin pickup actor, and select. Call this BP coin pickup actor. There we go. And save. Then when we open this up, we'll see that there is a mesh component and we need a static mesh for it. So now from here, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to create a textures folder. And then we are going to import all of our textures and everything like that. So I'm going to come over here and come into here. We can just drag in these two files, which you can get at, I'll provide a link in below for the textures, the coin asset, and the wave file. And then we're going to bring in the coin and the wave file, and we can just import all. Beautiful, everything's good, and hit save. Now, before we assign the static mesh, we'll want to create a material for it. So we're going to do blueprint class. Oh, sorry, not blueprint class. We'll want to do right click and do a material. And this is just going to be a parent material, which we'll create a material instance from. So we'll call it M coin base coin. Open this up. And then we're going to bring in both of these. And RGB. Then this one is occlusion, roughness, metallic in that order. So occlusion, roughness, and metallic. Now, it's a bit shiny for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do -1. And then we can multiply by 0.5. And metallic. And this will just dull it down a little bit because it's a bit too shiny. There we go. Then what we want to do is we want to come back into here, and we're going to right click on the M base coin and do create material instance. And this will be MI for material instance coin. And then we can save all. We're going to open up the coin static mesh, make sure that MI coin is selected, and just do that. There we go. Beautiful. Now, if we open up our coin pickup actor blueprint, and we have the SM coin low selected, we can auto-populate it, and it shows up like this. Save, compile. And then if we can now drag this into the world, right, like this, and hit F to focus in on it. And then when we hit play, we've got our actor, and we can walk through the coin. And we can bring this up a little bit here. There we go. And when we walk, we can just continue walking through it. Now that that is set up, we want to go to our back to our C++, and we're going to bring in the class rotating movement component, and we're going to copy the static mesh, but change it to use a rotating movement component. And we're going to call this rotating movement component, right? And then we've got to add that to our object here, right? So we're going to do rotating movement component, create default subobject, rotating movement component, and it's going to need to import. And then we're going to name it rotating movement component. There we go. And then we're going to make sure that everything here is saved. Then come into here and reload. And then this is going to reload probably a little bit faster. There we go. We're almost done. And then we can set up the rotation speed, which is going to be 100 on, which we're going to set to 100 because that's about what we're looking for. So we're going to come in here and rotation speed, 180. Oh, 180 might actually be fine. Let's double check it. Let's hit play. Oh, sorry. We got to make sure that we've added this to the world. Now we want to keep adding, we want to delete this and add this back if we make big changes, right? Just as a, there we go. And it's rotating. That's a fairly decent speed. So we'll leave it at 180 for now. Now that the rotating movement component has been set up, we'll want to add a collider to delete the actor on overlap with our current actor. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our C++ file, and we're going to start by adding in the class sphere component. And this is going to act as our overlap component. And here we'll do sphere component, and we'll call it collider component. Right? And then we've got to set this up inside of our constructor so it actually is attached and everything. So we'll start by doing collider component and create a default subobject. Give it the class of sphere component, and that's going to also do a little import there. And then we will give it a little handy name, which we'll call collider component, just so we have something meaningful. And then we're going to set root component to the collider component, because everything will inherit, like everything is going to be under it, because we always want the coin to be in the middle of our collider, and this is the easiest way to do it. That means that this here line needs to change from set root component to attach to the collider component. We're going to do that with mesh component, set up attachment, and we'll give it the collider component. Now we would like to set the collisions up and whatnot for the collider component. We can do that with collider component set collision enabled, and we want to do collision enabled to be collision enabled query only. Physics are not required for overlap, but query is, and query is the only thing that is required at the moment for overlap. And then we want collider component, and here we want to set everything except for the pawn to ignore. So what we're going to do is we're going to set to all channels ECR ignore, and then we're going to do collider component set collision response channel response to channel, and then we're going to do ECC pawn to ECR overlap. And the reason why we want to have specifically the pawn is because all characters are inherently pawns. You could create your own custom one to dictate just the character if you really wanted to. So now that overlap events have been turned on and all of that, which we just forgot to do, collision collider generate set generate overlap events to true. Sorry about that. We want to attach to the on begin overlap delegate. We can do that. There will be there's two delegates for overlaps. There's a on begin and on end. We're only going to use the on begin in this situation. So we can do that by accessing the on component begin overlap. And then we'll add a dynamic. And the first value will be, the first argument will be this. And then the second one will be a function that we'll be creating in a couple seconds here. ACPT coin pickup actor, and that will be this. And then what we want to do is colon on begin overlap component event. And now this is complaining that this does not exist. So let's create it, and we can have this automatically create us. And I believe this should also work in Visual Studio. Now I want to make this so I can actually read it all without having to scroll sideways or horizontally. Vertical scrolling, okay. Horizontal scrolling, not okay. Now this is complaining that it does not exist in the CPP file, so we're just going to generate that in the CPP file. We're also going to do the same thing here, so it all fits without scrolling. There we go. And then in here, we want to check to see if the actor that overlapped is a character actor. We can do that by testing the result back of a cast. So if not cast a character, and then we give it this in the other actor. Oops, we don't need that. We can just return right away. Now this requires an import. And the reason why we want to do this cast with a not is because if the cast fails to convert to an A character, it will give us a null pointer. And if it does, it will give us an actual valid pointer. And valid pointers are truthful and null pointers are falsy. So using the not, we'll say, if this is false, just return. All right. And then the next thing that we want to do is destroy. And now this will just say, hey, if it's a character actor, let's destroy this this actor. And then we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so now that we've finished compiling, we're going to make sure that our collisions are set up correctly. We're going to come in here, collider. We can type in collision, and we can see custom. What we want to see is pawn here, no physics, query only, sorry. There we go. Save. And then we want to make sure that we don't have the coin actually in the world anymore, because I found that this one actually causes issues. It doesn't update cleanly all the time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll call it, and then we walk over it and we see it delete. Beautiful. So the next things that we want to do are going to be the Niagara system. So we're going to add a Niagara system, new system from selected emitter, and we want to use the omnidirectional burst. So we'll just click on this and then add it and then finish. Then this is going to be NS Niagara system coin burst. There we go. And then we can come into here. Now we'll open this up, and we want to get rid of the sprite because we're not rendering a sprite, we're rendering a mesh. So we'll come back into here after deleting it and we'll say mesh render. And then we will come over here for the meshes. We can add multiple, but in this case, we only want to add one. We'll add that in. And here you'll see that it's working. Beautiful. So now what we want to do is on the particle spawn, we have this sprite uniform. We don't want sprites again, so we'll unset this, and we're going to set random uniform. And we're going to say 0.5 to 0.75. And that just means that each coin that spawns, it will be randomly 0.5 or 0.75, somewhere in there, in that range, right? We can save that now. And we can, now we've got the coin and the mono. Everything's, we've got the coin and the coin pickup sound, wave file. That's all good. And let's do a quick save all to make sure everything's working or good to go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come into, we're going to go back into Unreal, the IDE, and we're going to add in the last little bit here from to process the explosion for the emitter, and also the sound effect. So what we're going to do here is we need to bring in the Niagara system. So class U Niagara system. And one of the things that this is going to require is we're going to need to update our build. So we're going to go over to our build, and I've already got it added, but you need to add the private dependency module names with range, add range, and then you would pass it in a new string list with Niagara being called. And this just says, hey, please include this when we do our compile. All right. So once that's been added, we can continue forward. All right. So one of the things that we need to do is we need another U property. And we want to be able to edit it. So here, this would be a U Niagara system. And here we'll say on pickup effect. And then we want one other thing, which is the U sound base. So class U sound base. And this is going to hold the sound file that we're going to use to play when we walk over the actor. Pickup sound. All right, and then here we're going to say if. So we're going to do the pickup sound first. So if pickup sound. So this just says if I have a pickup sound, right? We're going to use a U gameplay statistics, right? Play sound at location. We're going to give it this as a context, and then we're going to say pickup sound, and then we're going to want to play that at the actor location. So get actor location, and then we want to give it a volume multiplier. Volume multiplier. And the volume multiplier is a float, so we'll quickly create that while we're here. And this is no longer that. We'll just do float volume multiplier. And I'm going to set this to a default of 0.5. 0.5 is just relative to how much we want. So 1 is 100%, 0.5 is 50%. Now we've got an error here because we need to import this. So we're going to do that, and you'll see that it imported the Kismet gameplay statistics. And then we've got another error here because I didn't type things correctly. So we're just going to copy over multiplier. That's correct. All right. Then the next thing that we want to do is if on pickup effect, right? We want to do a const f vector, right? And we want to give it an offset. Get actor up vector. This just returns which direction is up for the actor. So in this case, the Z axis. So it's going to be I think it's going to be 1000 or something like that, or no, 001 as the values, right? And then we want to multiply it by pickup effect spawn offset. Now this is not a predefined thing, right? So what we want to do is we want to do another float property. And then this one here we'll say is pickup effect spawn offset. And here we want to give it a spawn offset of 90, right? There we go. And then the next thing that we want to do is actually do the call to create and play the Niagara effect. So Niagara system, sorry, Niagara function library, and then spawn system at location. And this is also going to require an import, but this one doesn't autocomplete for some reason. I'm not sure why. Probably because it's requires extra stuff. So include Niagara function library. And then we need to actually provide in the context and everything. So we'll say this. And then on pickup effect, right? So this is the effect that we would like to have. And then we want to spawn it on the other actor at their current location, right? So we'll get the other actors, get actor location. And then we want to add our offset. There we go. And now we're going to make sure that everything is saved and do save all. And then we're going to restart. And now this is going to recompile everything. And then we'll be able to add that Niagara effect to the actor, right? And it will play that that pickup effect on overlap. Instead of just deleting it, it will play the audio, spawn the Niagara effect, and then delete. All right, so we're going to open this up so we can set those values. And here we've got the Niagara, and we want to select, we want to select this and fill it, and hit save and compile. Now when we walk over, it plays the audio, and we can add a bunch of these, and they will all play audio and give us Niagara effects. So let's just put a couple of these in here for our player to run into. Not the greatest at doing this type of movement, so please bear with me quickly here. There we go. We'll bring that up like so. One there. and one in between there. And then we'll hit play, and we're done. If there's any tutorials for blueprints to C++ that you would like to see in the future, please feel free to comment below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and give me a follow over on Twitch. I stream quite a bit. So thank you, and bye-bye.